So, welcome to the Executive Coach Podcast. I'm Maya Goodker, your host. And if you're new around here, maybe you typed in the search terms executive coach and you might have been feeling like you needed a little bit of support in your work, your life, your career, and you're definitely in the right place here. We talk about moving towards our goals and dreams, both professional and personal, in a way that feels easeful. And we're currently in the middle of a money and finance mini series. Last week, I talked about the big picture. We talked about living our rich lives as defined by Ramit Sethi. And we also talked about having a really clear vision so that we're working towards what matters to us rather than somebody else's vision. This is so important when we think about money and finances. We don't want to be faffing around at a tactical level without having that stuff in place. We want to put our efforts in the right place. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and have a listen to that episode. It really orients us to this finance conversation. And the next building block that I wanted to bring in is the mindset piece before we get into any of the specific, more practical, or even strategic elements. And the reason that I want to do this is because this money and finance stuff isn't easy. Becoming intimate with our money, as the wealth coaches like to say, that stuff can produce quite a lot of responses in people. It can produce feelings of worry, lack, avoidance, restriction, feeling like we need to run away from the situation or that we need to clamp down on our finances. And so this feels like the really perfect moment to bring in the concept of abundance versus scarcity mindset. Uh, as I have looked into it, I ran a workshop for a bank recently. I realized that there's plenty of research now about this topic. And it is, the tagline to this podcast intro is often talking about abundance. And I've had a few inquiries from listeners saying, what can you share about abundance mindset? Because I talked about it recently with Michelle as being such a powerful mindset that I have adopted as well more recently. So I wanted to do the deep dive on this, and you'll be pleased to know that I've actually put a lot of work into these episodes. As I first started recording it, I realized that it wasn't going to be just one episode, and I want to break it down into a few mini episodes over the course of this week so that I can do each area justice and so that you can walk away with a few little things each day that you can actually put into practice rather than coming away from a longer episode of me monologuing and you then walking away with loads of ideas, but nothing really clear on what you should go and first put into practice. So, what we're going to do this week is we are going to obviously clarify what an abundance mindset actually is and what a scarcity mindset is. I'm going to start with the abundance mindset, but as you will see, when we define the scarcity mindset, it will also help us give a bit more clarity on examples and what this looks like in practice. And then I'm going to talk about how we can think practical things that we can put into place so that we can start to cultivate this on a daily basis. And really importantly, and what I think makes this stand out from maybe some other content around this is why it's so important for high achievers in particular. Obviously, this is who I am often working with. And so I see the things that specifically come up for my high achievers when it comes to scarcity and abundance mindset. So the final bit I want to do is take a bit of a critical lens. We don't want to be taking everything at face value here on this podcast. And what I don't want to leave you with is a sense that scarcity mindset is all bad, abundance mindset is all good, and let's throw caution into the wind and adopt an abundance mindset on everything. I find that narrative a little bit frustrating when it comes to this topic, in fact, and I feel like there's quite a lot out there that I'm a little bit skeptical about, put it that way. And so I wanted to give us a more balanced way of thinking about this as we then head off and put it into practice. So let's kick off today. And if you were to just Google, what is an abundance mindset, the headline that you will find is something around the belief that there is enough wealth, happiness, success in the world for everybody, and it therefore encourages us to approach life situations with optimism, generosity, so that we can, really lean into that sense of limitlessness rather than taking a more of a self-preserving and a limited approach. I would like to take things a little bit deeper today because I think this concept integrates really well with other positive psychology concepts. And so I think it sits very well alongside these. For example, growth mindset. And this is one where when we ran the workshop, we talked about the two of these concepts together. They are naturally interlinked because what a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset essentially is opening ourselves up to the fact that we're not a fixed product, that we have malleability and growth in our brains. We can expand our capacities and capabilities and have more of a learning mindset. And then the interesting thing in terms of how our brain can lean into this is that when we then take risks and successfully complete those, we will get a hit of dopamine. This then encourages the brain to do more of this. So having a growth mindset then becomes a little bit reinforcing. Likewise, not having one also then becomes more of a vicious spiral. And therefore, it's so important that we do those things that encourage that virtuous circle. Likewise, when it comes to abundance mindset, we want to be often opening ourselves up, taking sometimes more risk in ways that feel like we are tapping into more of a limitless approach. And so the two concepts go really well hand in hand. The other concept that goes really nicely alongside this is gratitude. And the word that I love here is appreciation. We will get into that in one of the future episodes. But of course, appreciation has multiple definitions. One of them is to increase in value, another is to acknowledge and notice something. And so there are others as well, by the way. But I think it is literally the perfect word when it comes to abundance mindset. So we can have that headline, that Google term when it comes to abundance mindset, but let's get a little bit deeper. As I have looked into this further, I have noticed that there are two slightly deeper contexts here, which are really the underlying drivers here of an abundance mindset. And those are the following: one, allowing ourselves to receive and putting ourselves into a state of receiving. It's okay and safe to receive from the world and the universe. And of course, as a very driven or achievement oriented person, we can spend time in more push energy where we are the drivers of things. This is sometimes described as a more masculine energy. But when we put ourselves into more of a state of receiving, we are opening ourselves up to more of a surrendering energy, letting go, allowing ourselves to receive. And so that part becomes a really important component and building block of um, abundance mindset. And I think one of the things that can be a really useful practice here, we will get into other practices in future episodes, is allowing ourselves each day to spend some time in receiving mode. So, my personal example, as somebody that doesn't identify with that push energy, and there are different ways that that is defined, I enjoy being in that energy. There are certain circumstances that really demand that type of energy. But I also take time when I'm doing my walking in nature to allow myself to be in more of a state of receiving. And I think being in nature is a really good way of doing that because you can open up your senses and you can allow yourself to absorb the abundance in nature as well. So that would be a practical example. So we've got component one. The second thing, and this one I think is why this is quite a deep concept, is that we also need to cultivate those feelings of safety, wholeness, acceptance, and ultimately, therefore, abundance within. So we don't need to go and seek those things externally. So, whilst what we want is available to us, as we've identified in that receiving mode, it is that we are safe to receive what it is that we want. We don't actually need that stuff. We don't need to go and chase that stuff. We're okay anyway. We are whole and complete within. And so we're now in this lovely state of inner peace, acceptance. Well, actually, I take back the word inner peace, inner worthiness, acceptance, wholeness, and abundance already. We experience those feelings, and we are in a receiving mindset, or we allow ourselves to put ourselves into more of a receiving, let go, surrender mindset. The combination of those two things becomes incredibly powerful. And as I have talked you through that, I wonder whether you might think of some examples of when you've perhaps been more of a push energy, but then you've allowed yourself to let go, switch off, do different things. And it's in those times often that things materialize, things that we were potentially wanting or chasing. So that's a really, I think, a nice way to get a little bit deeper into this concept. What it does mean, and we'll probably drill into this further as well, is that if you don't have that stuff, if you have, and you know this about yourself, some challenges around worthiness or self esteem, that stuff will need to be addressed if you want to be able to cultivate feelings of abundance. So, what I want to leave you with today are a couple of things to take away with you. The first is that on this scale of inner wholeness and completeness, in that sense that you don't need to chase external validation, rewards, that your happiness is located somewhere externally, on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being not at all, and 10 being you have a deep sense of inner completeness, self acceptance, and worthiness, where would you currently put yourself? Where would you rate yourself out of 10? That's one question. The second one is that as you go about your day to day, and maybe over the course of this week, start to notice where you have some thoughts, some abundant thoughts, where you do have a sense of generosity and possibility and appreciation for things. Start to notice that, because we will probably all have areas in our life where we have more of a scarcity mindset and more of an abundance mindset. And today, I want us to raise our awareness of those areas where we have more of an abundance mindset. And it is early days, because we're going to get into more tangible examples, and that might bring it more to life for you. But we can still, I'm pretty sure that you will find some examples in the course of your day or in the course of your week. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope you found this a useful start. If you think there is somebody, as you've listened to this, that could really benefit from understanding these concepts, please share them the link to this episode, or screenshot it and let people know that this is happening this week, this mini series, and make sure that the people who need to know about this stuff are getting access to it. So I look forward to connecting with you next time, as we will break down what it is to have a scarcity mindset. All right. Look forward to connecting with you next time. Bye bye.